Welcome back, everybody. So, listen, COVID-19 certainly seems to have accelerated a lot of changes in the workplace. And as some employers are considering bringing workers back, a lot of people, employees and employers are asking, what will the future of work look like?
So today we're talking to a futurist, someone who predicts trends for a living, to tell us what we should expect. Nikolas Badminton, welcome to the social.
Thanks for having me.
This is such a fascinating topic because, as we sit here talking to you, we've been largely working from home ourselves for the past 18 months, as a lot of people have been. And maybe the question on the top of one of the important questions on the top of people's minds is how much of this new normal is going to be permanent?
Yeah, with such a long time taken over the last 18 months of embedding ourselves into this new way of working, we're going to see a cultural shift to people saying, I don't want to go back into the office. But I think that businesses are going to really draw people back. I think that there's going to be something that I call a 3-2 rhythm. So 3 days in the office, 2 days at home. So 3 days in the office being creative and together and collaborating and doing all sorts of cool projects, hopefully. And then 2 days at home being productive and getting the work done. And I do think that that's going to stick with us. And we're seeing some evidence of that happening in Canada already.
But not all jobs can be done from home. So, what disruptions are we seeing in other areas?
Well, it's kind of interesting. Some people would argue that every single job could be done at home. But if you're looking at people that are working in like restaurants or working in the healthcare business, you have to be there in person. You have to be providing that care. So they're the occupations, the frontline workers that we've been relying on all this time to help keeping us safe and fed, and also, servicing the needs that we have to keep the economy going. Really, they're going to be the people out there, and we're going to have to really support them. If we're going to be staying at home or in a slightly luckier situation than them.
So the other thing here is, as Lainey mentioned, it's the type of work, and there are in fact some jobs that are maybe more knowledge based. They can be completely done by computer. What are you seeing in terms of what companies might do when they can hire, or can they hire just about anybody in any city or any country for that matter? What does that look like?
There's a lot of platforms out there like Upwork and Freelancer and whatever that can connect people from all over the world to do, highly skilled work as well as more simplistic tasks. And 1 in 3 Canadian businesses lean on these gig economy approaches to help them, building websites or doing SEO or really doing some administrative tasks like accounting as well. So we're going to see this sort of reach out to people around the world to help us keep costs down, because it's going to be a tough couple of years, I think, from here for businesses to really sort of optimize how they work to sort of emerge out the other side of this pandemic.
And then there's also something, this effect that people are calling the great resignation. So there's a Microsoft survey of 30,000 workers, and 41% of them said that they were considering leaving their jobs or even changing professions this year. What kind of moves are people making?
So this is a huge thing in the world of work. I mean, if we're going around and we're going to restaurants or whatever, we're already seeing people not have enough staff to be able to even staff their kitchens or really service people the way that we need to. But also, what the pandemic's done is made us all sit down and wonder what we're doing with our lives. That self-reflection has meant that people are like, you know what, I'm going to quit my job. I know at least 5 or 6 people that have quit their jobs to completely change course in their careers. So you might be working in advertising, now you want to work in not-for-profit. You might be working in technology, you might want to work in counseling instead. And these are some of the shifts that I've seen. And that's really good. But now you've got businesses that are scrambling for people, and they have to start playing really fairly with them and saying, oh, we'd love you to come work for us. And it's the employees that are now interviewing the employers. So the dynamic has changed. I think that's quite a good thing in the scheme of things.
I want to stick with that, in that relationship and that power dynamic. Would you say overall it's an employer's or an employee's world right now?
It's difficult to say, and it's very much your own personal take on the situation and how sort of confident you are out there in the world. But I really do think that it's an employee's world out there. You can go out there and find amazing work with companies. Those companies are hopefully going to listen to you a little bit more carefully. They're going to, care about your health. They're going to care about that work-life balance, because there's been no work-life balance, right? So now's the time to renegotiate everything. There's a lot of people getting pay rises because they're flight risks, and it's really interesting to see this. So yeah, go out there, negotiate if you're in a job, or even like just leave and go and do something else as well. Again, we're talking about, the white collar workers in sort of blue collar tasks as well. There's still an opportunity to move up and outwards into different careers as well.
Nick, this is related to what you were saying about a lot of people just kind of deciding after a lot of reflection during this time to do something else. And some of them are going back to school, pursuing an interest they've always had. So I do want to talk about education. Where does this leave traditional education in this landscape? How much will a university education be worth? What value versus on-the-job experience?
So in my career, some of the best people I've ever worked with are people without any university degrees. I got myself a degree, back in the late 90s. You had to have that to get into certain occupations. Well, that barrier and that ceiling has been removed completely. And now if you're someone with experience or passion, or you show potential, you're not going to need a degree. So there's a real sort of affront to university education and that discipline. However, I still think that academia and university degrees and what you can get from a university education is incredibly important. We're going to see a lot of that go online, but there's still going to be a lot of people that want to go to campus and really connect with really smart lecturers and professors, but also their other students, because those dynamics and those friendships and those connections can last a lifetime and actually boost, your prospects as you hit the world of work as well.
Yeah, great points there as well. It's sometimes relationships beyond the education. Let's talk about business travel, because it effectively screeched to a halt when this whole pandemic began. We are using video conferencing, and that has largely replaced a lot of what would have been in-person, face-to-face meetings before. Is business travel ever going to rebound?
Over the last 25 years, I've done a lot of business travel all over the world. And even to the point where it's like, can you fly across the country to be in 1-2 hour meeting? All of that is gone. We've seen companies like Amazon and Microsoft really work out, billions of dollars that were spent on travel no longer need to be spent on travel. They've got ways and means to make it work remotely. I mean, I was flying 60 times a year before the pandemic actually hit. I was traveling to speak and work with clients, but like that's disappeared. And I've been able to completely rethink my business and how I work, to actually work with people remotely and further afield as well. I've worked with people in Asia and Europe a lot more than I ever did before. So, I don't think the business travel is really going to come bouncing back that quickly. I think within a couple of years, we really like going to conferences. We really like seeing people in other offices. It's going to come back, probably about 75% of what it was before. Again, that's sort of a wild speculation. I think the airlines are secretly hoping that that's the case, because that was such a lot of their revenue.
And finally, beyond the pandemic, what other factors do you see as contributing to profound, lasting changes for our work and what we think of work?
So I truly think that now we've sort of sat back and we're really looking at the world holistically. We're seeing that we have to be environmentally savvy. We have to be sustainable in our approaches. We're going to demand that from the companies we work with. And we're at sort of a point in time where if we don't take efforts to move away from fossil fuels and the waste that we put out in the world, we're going to be in a dire situation in the next sort of 10 to 20 years, and our children are going to have a really rough time of it. So that sustainability is going to be really, really important. Everything from water usage, where we get our food from, and the such is going to become wholly important to us and our families. So I think that sort of mindset towards trying to live a better life that's better for the planet and better for society as a whole is going to stick with us. I certainly hope it's going to stick with us, because we're kind of at a desperate point where everything from forest fires and droughts to flooding is going to affect us even more year by year from this point out.
No doubt. Nick Badminton, thank you for guiding us into the future gently. with your wisdom. We really appreciate your time. And don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.